sir. Yes, sir. Uh, so
So
if you,
you said that you was making a point about you saw something recently.
yeah, I just saw this, man, and it disheartens me due to the fact that we do live in a haterific world, and we also live in a world where sometimes we get our greats taken out too early, and I feel like that is dysfunctional. That's number one. Now, what else is dysfunctional is a primitive mindset, and sometimes we've seen so many people go from the top of their statuses, along with others who have maintained these statuses until death. But some of these statuses are short-lived. 28-year-old Bobby Shmurda hops online, and I want to say this about Bobby Shmurda. It was all good, not all good a week ago, but yeah, basically a week ago. That's my favorite line when it comes to, short little what do you call them, crowd pleasers, because the hat still never came down, and I'm amused by that. Not only am I amused by it, I'm also happy for who Bobby Shmurda is. He went in, he defied the street odds. He came out. He has a career. Now, if you ask me what song does Bobby Shmurda have right now, I'm not gonna lie to you and tell you I know exactly. I'm pretty sure I've heard something subconsciously on the radio that I bob my head to. But what I'm most happy about is to see a young black man flourishing in today's society. Again, he makes $10,000 off of every song residual. Also, too, he makes about $100,000 a week. And for him to, he does that a week. So what that says to me is, one, you've defied the odds of the hip hop industry, and you've found a way to make money. I've also heard him speak on Joyner Lucas, so he's definitely studying what it takes to be independent in today's society. Whether it's the music business or whether it's you being an independent thinker in today's society as a 9-to-5 worker. You have to be self-independent. You have to be able to know your job, understand that there's things you don't understand about your job. You have to also be able to accept, let's say, not knowing that criticism. Long story short, you have to be able to accept criticisms, but you also have to be able to give it to yourself. Most important. Because if you're doing that, then you are bossing your own life situation up. I say this a lot, and I mean this. We have to leave ego out of stuff. Because most importantly is...
You gotta starve your ego.
Yeah, you gotta take care of yourself, and as a man, I'm pretty sure you have people to take care of. With that being said, make sure that you guys out there you're thinking straight and you're practicing self-control. This is the self-control segment. I'm off of it real quick. I'm just happy to keep reporting the news, man. Is there anything else out there since I took up a good 3 minutes or so?
No, it's all good. So back into my expert opinion, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, this is one of my favorite shows. We got a sound bite here, and we're going to it.
You're getting a bag involved with these people that you're using ways to try to not to pay them and do all that. That's hate, bro. But if you go to revoke and take my likeness that you don't have permission for, and I don't care if I say it on camera, he said, well, let me take the ones out that he's not in. I'm in all the monumental ones. Duh. Every time that we went on Shade Room, if we went on Shade Room 6 times, it was because of this man's questions 5 times. He comes up with the content. He not gonna do it like, no, hey, am I gonna do this shit or not? So then I make calls. Oh, he gonna Esso one. Oh, he gonna Heineken one. Oh, this nigga's never been paid. I'm done. I'm not doing this shit.
Ooh.
And if you gonna stake these niggas, you gonna stake me too? Like, you see everybody. I fuck with Math, Hoffa, and Ghost, and High because I enjoyed what we were doing.
Yeah.
It was a cultural movement. But then when you add money to cultural movements, everybody can't take making the money. You're getting a bag involved with these people that you...
Now you got a good thing going, right?
Right.
We black.
Right.
Luckily, me and you brothers.
Right.
We can damn near get a fist fight on camera, on this camera, and then we'll be back for the next episode.
Speaking of, we didn't get into a fist fight, but there's times where we have gotten to verbal skirmishes. Earlier episodes, go check those out.
And if you can't understand that people will have differences, you're not prepared for a business.
That's a fact.
If you're not paying the people involved in business where money is flowing, you're not prepared for business.
Nah.
So I'm not saying on either side who's right or who's wrong. I'm saying though, it hurts to see another show lose the collective.
Yeah, man.
We've seen it with Joe Budden.
Yeah.
We've seen it with $1 Million Worth of Game.
Yeah.
We always see it.
Yeah.
And I mean, of course, it's gonna be people that come and go in any entity, but let's start splitting up once. We brand something for a while, and we rock with something for a while. Don't hate on the nigga that's trying to do something else.
Yeah.
In the midst of keeping this thing that we all are part of going, because everybody gotta have something to reinvent themselves with down the road.
The good thing I saw about the Joe Budden podcast is I think that show was definitely branded very well. Apart from Joe Budden himself, we had
I think it was ran well too.
most definitely. You had Rory and you had Maul as his co-host. Now you have Ice and Ish, which is pretty good. The good thing about that is they went their separate ways, but they were branded pretty well. Now, with my expert opinion, it pains me to see Esso and Heineken and also the cameraman exit part ways with Matt Hoffa. I didn't realize that they didn't have such a brotherhood as it was explained to me. But at the same time, I still enjoyed their shows, and I have to agree with Esso. When Heineken brought up certain questions, it did make me say, "Oh, that's a good question." Those are monumental.
Speaking of Heineken, speaking of my expert opinion,
Yeah.
your man's, the legendary Tony Yayo,
Yes.
made an appearance on my expert opinion,
Yeah.
and he cut straight into Heineken.
As he should.
I think Heineken felt real uncomfortable.
That type of shit happens.
I think that is one of the things that we have to keep in mind of ourselves. We don't live in a fictitious world. And if we can for a second, can we hear from Tony Yayo?
Most definitely.
Man, you smacked Jimmy Hitchman son. Nah, it's not true. I don't smack kids, man. I got 2 kids myself, man. Said your mom's house got shut behind that or something? Nah, I wouldn't say that they did that because that would be being drop switches and this nigga did that, nigga did this, you know what I mean? It's just that Tony Yayo was still in the street, so when minor shit happen, like a nigga shoot up a window or a door, it's a big deal to the industry.
So Tony Yayo saying that he ain't smacked Jimmy Henchman's sons. This ain't Heineken. But the reason I played that is because obviously Tony Yayo don't really be speaking out against shit unless that shit really be effective.
Yeah. Right.
So if Tony Yayo comes on the show and says something to a nigga about some past shit, I kinda, and I'm not leaning toward either side, but I kinda understand why Math Hopper don't deal with certain people. You know what I'm saying? The reason I say that is Tony Yayo is probably the most, I don't know him personally, but you know, real recognize real, and you can kind of just tell kind of, you know, spirits. You know, like you really don't want no smoke with a nigga like Tony Yayo. You don't want no smoke with a nigga like Uncle Murder.
I've had the pleasure of meeting Tony Yayo a couple times. I also got really cool with the guy from his camp. Shout out to G Unit and the whole G Unit underlink. Those are some outspoken fellas. I want to say this much right here: if you are not really hood versed, you probably would have some type of fear when they're in the studio.
And the look that Heineken had in his eyes, though, you know what I'm saying?
I don't think Heineken is that well hood versed. I don't think he knows how to operate under those conditions. I gotta be honest. I think that's also word on the street as well. I think Queen's Flip was saying something like that. I might be wrong, but I believe Queen's Flip said something along the same lines as I did. And again, if people who don't understand the demographic of Queens is just like Metro Detroit. I'm talking about demographic and everything. Like from the way the houses look, from it being a whole lot of black people, you know, spread around the place.
He says, you know I'm like that, so just chill.
Yeah.
I brought up Jimmy Henchman kids because if you're a part of the hip hop world, you know who Jimmy Henchman is.
Right.
If you know who Tupac is,
Mm-hmm.
if you know what the music industry and the black community is as far as hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
So if Tony Yayo don't mind having issues with the Henchman's kids, what make you think that nigga gonna not speak his mind when he see a nigga like Heineken? You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
And
Again, if y'all
I feel one more thing. I saw another clip and it was Esso, and I think Esso is loyal to a fault. I think that Esso might have, okay, yeah, we know Mav can pay everybody. Maybe Mav can get around to paying everybody yet, too.
Mm-hmm.
That could be a thing. You know, we don't know if Esso and them have been paid by now or if they haven't. If they haven't, then that's still wrong. But he said something about, I guess, Heineken wasn't needed at the show taping that day, but if Esso wanted to come, he could have came.
Yeah, I heard that too.
And Esso didn't come because he said if he ain't wanted, then, you know. And I think, again, as a grown man and somebody that's trying to further a career or deal with certain people in certain arenas, I don't think Esso was probably looked at as the bad guy as much as Heineken probably was, because I think Heineken had a real relationship with Hoffa. You know what I'm saying? I think they've been friends longer than Esso has known Matt Hoffa.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? This is just from the outside looking in.
Okay.
But when you get a guy like Tony Yayo coming on there, and I've known some guys that's like this, where you see them and you ain't seen them in a minute, and you like, you weren't even intending on checking a nigga. But you like, hey man, remember that fuck shit you did, nigga?
I think we need to get back to that. I think that's,
You know what I'm saying? And I think that speak volumes, because Matt Hoffa ain't really said too much about, you know what I'm saying? He lets you know some of the surface stuff in his truths, but he ain't really like bashed them niggas and shit like that, or said where they came wrong on numerous occasions and shit like that. Pause. But I ain't seen nobody on that show get checked outside of Heineken. And I've seen other times where Heineken say weirdo shit. Like,
I think that was
what?
his job too.
I don't think that was his job to say weirdo shit. I think he's just the nigga that says weirdo shit.
Well, what
And
I mean
then
by that
when
is,
it was time to cut him off, it wasn't a hard decision.
what I mean by that is this, and I think that will be, because it's the Charlemagne effect, it's the Joe Budden effect. I think that's where his longevity is going to be.
See, I can respect Joe Budden.
But I think that's where Heineken's longevity will
You
be.
see, I said Joe Budden.
Right, his uncomfortable questions. He has very uncomfortable questions that will create viral moments. On one side, that's good for the show. The other side is, that can also land you a black eye depending on the type of respect you have.
Man,
as
when I say weird stuff, I'm talking about, he was saying something one time on an episode.
Right.
And it was about, I guess, like generations, the difference in generations, and I think how the music or something is put out there, and you know how women perceive the guys and stuff.
Yeah.
And he was like, all you gotta do is such and such and such, and it is, let me suck you. And I'm like, wow, that's the first thing you jump to in your mind.
Wait a minute now.
He said the chick was like, oh, that's what that dude got. Let me get. And I'm like, okay, I get it. You giving an example, but for you didn't say, let me sleep with you. Sleep with you would be like, okay, then that's a normal thought. That's a collective thought where everybody might have been thinking, and it don't show that you got something extra on your mind. But when you say, let me say, it's like, wait a minute, G.
First of all,
You know what I'm saying? So that's why I say,
was there a pause?
No, that's why I say he says weirdo stuff. Like, and I can give other examples, but when he throws the conversation vibe off, you know you got an issue on your show.
Definitely, I can't say
You get
that
what
he
I'm
doesn't
saying?
throw the vibe off. But again, he definitely throws the vibe off, and those big pauses are the times where there's big viral moments that are created. I think that Esso it pointed that out, and when I think back to a lot of the interviews, that's actually very true. Now the next question
And
is,
I think Esso brings a lot to the table, and I think Esso conducts himself, and we can see by the loyalty that he has
yeah,
to him. And not saying that Esso can't go do business without Heineken, because obviously Esso does business without Heineken. You know
but
what
when
I'm
I
saying?
saw that,
But he was more so like, I'm not going to stay if we get ousted.
when I
You dig what I'm
saw
saying?
when I saw the Joe Budden interview with Matt Hoffa and Queen's Flip on there, it's safe to say that they and the majority of people in their circles feel like Heineken is just a softie. You know what I mean? Like, he's the kind of person who's gonna tuck his tail and hide behind the guy who actually has his back, like Esso. You know what I'm saying? That's what Heineken is gonna do. Now, me personally, I don't know the fella.
I'm not going to say he hide, because I've seen clips of Heineken. You know, he's speaking his truths too. So I'm not going to say he's not saying nothing.
Okay.
But I am going to say maybe he didn't fit in it, or maybe he did. But it's just hurtful to see something that's going so good
Yeah.
not be able to be talked about, and we keep it together. Y'all do what y'all do. It's out in the open now. But this how we gonna moving forward.
Right.
You can't stop people from doing stuff. You know what I'm saying? You can't stop people from doing stuff.
I want to bring up another point to that. After these messages,